Hello everyone, thank you for joining us in an event of how to develop powerful web and mobile apps using Angular and Flutter. So the event is actually sponsored by JetBrains, so we are very thankful to JetBrains for sponsoring our event. So yeah, let's move on. Before proceeding ahead, I am actually looking forward to get a little bit introduction of myself. My name is Awais. I am a full stack developer working on JavaScript technologies for the front-end side like Angular and React.js, and on the back-end side I am efficient working in Ruby on Rails, somehow about Node.js and Firebase as well. What this talk is about, so we will be talking on the three parts. First is develop across all platforms, and second one is speed and performance, and the third one is incredible tooling. So let's talk about the first, develop across all platforms. Angular is a very powerful framework, so the efficiency of Angular is to like develop once and run everywhere. So powerful, the Angular is actually powerful in terms of reusability, like in terms of components, directives and pipes. If you are working with the next generation mobile apps or the front-end web applications or mobile applications, so it's always have when you guys have a pretty most of the difficult logic side, like working with each module, like each module have 100 components, maybe like presentational layers if you are working on the enterprise application. So reusability is the main concern which is actually helping you out in these scenarios. So it's built for next generation web and mobile apps, Android and iOS, web and desktop. So while working with the Angular framework, you can also get your Android and iOS build, and you for sure it will be very efficient on working with the web applications and the websites. And for the desktop side, you have to work with Electron npm module. So this will be helping you out in releasing your desktop builds. So the second part is totally about speed and performance. So we will be talking about how Angular is actually giving us speed and performance. So there are actually some metrics on which we have to work on to make our application most powerful and most fastly while working in compilation times as well. So how we can achieve the maximum possible speed using Angular? So there are actually few concerns. So the first one is server-side rendering, the second one is PWA, and the third one is AOT, ahead of compilation time. So let's talk about first one, server-side rendering. In the previous times when the next generation JavaScript frameworks were not there, so in the conventional thing the developers will be working on, like if we talk about the static web, if we talk about the static web application or website which is actually built over HTML5, CSS3, jQuery or JavaScript, so the code actually we were actually written out, so it will be actually showing us in the dev tools and inspect element or a source code when we open the code in our browser. So the code will be there, and we can see throughout the DOM which is actually presenting us on a source side. So after coming of these next generation frameworks and libraries like Angular and React, so the code is actually not showing up in your in your source side while on the browser. So it's actually the main concern which most of you guys know about the term which is search engine optimization, SEO. So server-side rendering is totally about that. So if you want to make your web app or a website to be coming up in the results of Google search, so server-side rendering will be must for you guys, because it's not be there. If a simple Angular application and the React application is built over, and you want it like to make it on you want to appear your website or web app on the Google search, so you have to work with server-side rendering. So Angular have given us a pretty good fast terminology which is Angular Universal, so you can come up with that as well to achieve this SSR thing. The second point is PWA, which is progressive web apps. So progressive web apps is totally about the service workers and the background jobs. So understanding this term, let's take an example of let's take an example of location based application. So let's suppose there's actually a parcel delivery application, and in the location based application basically you guys have we also have the background jobs running, like which is actually taking the current location of driver, let's suppose. So in this manner we have to be written as service workers, so that will be actually running in our background jobs to working if the application is actually not opened in the cell phone or in the device as well. So PW is a terminology for that. And one more good thing the PWAs give us, let's suppose you guys have a web app which is actually enabled with PWA. Angular have given us a good npm Angular have given us a good npm module for that as well. After adding the PWA node module, you guys have implemented the basic implementation of PWA will be there for you. So yeah, after implementing the PWA, if you guys have opened your application on, let's suppose, on your device, on a browser device, so when you go into the settings and the share option, so it's an option of add to home screen there. When you click on add to home screen, the application is actually come up on the icon with the icons on your home screen of your cell phone. Like if you are using Android and iOS, don't worry about the operating systems, so it will be showing on the home screen. So let's suppose you have killed the process of that application and you when again open the application from your home screen, so it will be looking just as the mobile apps. You don't see the native controls of browser like address bar and the native controls of the bottom bar. So it's actually also the good thing PWA gives us by default. And the third topic is about ahead of compilation time, which is actually, there are actually two just-in-time compilation and ahead of time compilation as well. So after Angular 8 onwards, it's actually built-in AOT compilation, which means actually the browser before running the application, browser will actually pre-render throughout the code before the while in the process of compilation. So when it will be loaded on the on your browser, so it will be super fast. So yeah, while in the just-in-time compilation before Angular 8, so there were actually just-in-time compilation, which is actually the runtime rendering will be there, and runtime compilation will be there when you are when the application is in the process. So after Angular 8, by default we have an ahead of compilation processes, so it will be super fast to run your application in your browsers. Angular has also provided us incredible tooling to build features quickly. Like let's suppose Angular had give us the Angular CLI, which is most powerful and super fast to create your Angular applications and create your directives, create your services. After in upcoming next slides, I will be showing up how Angular is actually given us the commands of the Angular CLI to basically create application in a few lines, in a single line of code, not few lines. So the second one is declarative templates, so augmented markup HTML in your logic file like .ts and logic. Augmenting markup is like, let's suppose we guys have a logic, like let's suppose if admin is true, so I have to show a checkbox or some sort of like this or something. Maybe there's some separate logic, not as it is. So on the basis of logic, if you want to actually add something in your DOM, so it's actually called declarative templates. So Angular have the support of this thing as well. The powerful directives Angular give us by default, so ngIf, ngSwitch and ngClass, these are actually the powerful directives for the front end side, which actually have which Angular have provided us to work with them. In my next slides I will be showing the code snippets for that, so you guys have a better understanding for this. Extend template language with your own components. Like let's suppose we are having with a child and a parent component relationship. Let's suppose I have a listing page, and inside the listing page I am actually having with the multiple cards. So in this scenario, the card is actually reusable, and card is actually the child component which I am consuming in my parent component. So in this scenario, on the basis of some some logic from the parent, I will controlling my child components to show heading, or like let's suppose if there will be an admin, so we can show the edit and delete buttons or some sort of like functionality. And if there is a normal user or guest, so it will be not showing up some sort of like these components. So in the on the basis of logic, actually we are extending the templates. And input and output decorators are actually the most important playing roles in while developing the enterprise applications, or not enterprise applications, as basic applications. Input and output decorators are super fast and will be helping us in creating the applications of Angular. So I will be showing up the snippets, not in this presentation, but there will be a separate talk on this. This is a good topic as well. So the input decorator is actually very useful if we want to communicate and if you want to send some data from parent to the child component. Like I was actually let's suppose we are having with a scenario I had just talked a few seconds ago. Like I am having the listing page, product listing page, and inside the product listing page I am consuming my child component. Let's suppose I have a cart component, which is the child component. So let's suppose I now want to send the array of data. Let's suppose sorry, not array, I want to send the object to my child component. So in this scenario, the input decorator will be there, so that we can take the help from the input decorator. In this manner, we are sending the data from parent to the child component using input. And if child want to send some data to the parent, so the output decorators will be there for using that. Let's suppose I have passed an object. Inside the object I have a product image, product price, and a product name. I am passing this data to my child component using input, and the card will be rendering to the DOM. Let's suppose I am clicking on the card, I'm clicking on that child component, and I want to send back the ID to my parent. So the output decorators will be there that will be helping out to sending the data back to the parent. Yeah. You guys can find input and output decorators more documentation on angular.io. It will be super fast and super helping. So the Angular CLI, a command line interface, which is actually Angular is providing us. So using this, we are actually having the super fast thing to scaffold our applications in a quick manner. So for a new app generation, we are having the command of ng new powerful app. Let's suppose ng means Angular, which is actually installed in our machine globally to have an access of Angular CLI. And new is actually the term which is actually the signal to create a new application. And after that, we are having with the name powerful app. So in this manner, if you write this command and press enter, so it will be asking for some questions, like let's suppose if you want to add routing in your app. Second question will be like if you want which type of styling you want in your app, like CSS, SAS. So these are of the different types, so you guys can select any from them as per your needs. And after creating the app, you guys have also the access to generate a component, to generate a module, service, directive, interfaces, class. So yeah, this is actually the power of Angular CLI to generate the different services, modules, and directives. So there isn't any much difference in all of the commands. Just a creation of new application command is little bit different. Yeah, this is actually the different command. But the new creation of component, new module creation, new service creation, all of them are actually very same. ng generate is actually the starting for that, and the third one is actually the thing you want to generate. Like either it's component, either it's module, either it's service, directive, interface, class. So yeah, the third one is actually their name. Only the module creation have some flags, like after the name of module, you guys have a flag of add routing, -- routing. So it's the module is created with the routing file as well. So yeah, for the deeper understanding for these Angular CLI commands, you guys can also go to angular.io. So yeah, you can find the things in the deeper. So let's talk about ng if directive. This is actually the part of a structural directive which is actually predefined by Angular. So in our conventional apps, like we don't have these type of super fast commands to control our DOM, the tree structure from actually the structural directive. So it will be like in the conventional application we are actually having the JavaScript files from where we are actually controlling the throughout DOM. Like let's suppose if condition is true or false, we are actually writing the nodes and like getting the elements from IDs, classes and attributes to control them, show and hide them, or some sort of like there is a lot of code to write for each and every DOM adding or DOM removal according to the conditions. So there are a lot of bunch of JavaScript files will be there. So after these next generation framework like Angular, we are having with this capability to just add a directive like ng if and the condition here. So if condition will be true, then this content will be shown. There are also if and else condition we are having. Let's suppose if the condition is false, so the else block will be running there. So else and else block, so you guys can pass that hash else block directive to your ng template, ng content or some div or some element. So if the condition is false, so else block will be showing up. ng class is also a directive from Angular, which is actually helping us to adding and removing the classes on the basis of condition. So this is actually the conditional class thing. The first one is like the first and second, which is actually written in a single quotation. These are actually the name of classes, and true is actually this is actually the hard-coded flag. In this place you guys can pass in your variable or condition as well. Let's suppose admin equal to true, or some sort of like the product equal to enabled, or product dot id is greater than somehow, like these type of logics. So yeah, the class names are actually adding and removing on the basis of conditions. Like with the ng if, we are also having with the structural directive, which is actually ng switch. So this is actually working with the scenarios where you guys have multiple cases. So like let's suppose I am having with the conditions of 10 and 15 or some sort of like 5+ conditions. So ng if is actually not the good for that scenario. Like I have to place a lot of if conditions there from the view parts. So and switch case is a better option to work on that. Like let's suppose ng switch and switch expression will be there. Switch expression is maybe a condition, and inside that condition switch case is like switch case for different type of like items. If a switch case is 0, so some element will be running, and if the switch case is 1, then the second part it will be running, and with the third, then the third will be running. Then if there will be a default, so at last you guys have to add ng switch default with a static from start. So if there isn't any case from the above cases, like let's suppose I have a 0, 1, 2, if my case is not, if my case is 3, so the default will be running in this situation. So yeah, if we are having the multiple like 5+ or 7+ conditional things, so ng switch case will be a better option to work with. So yeah, that's it with this presentation. Like we are ending up with the Angular session. So this is actually the introductory session, that how Angular is having with the platform, how Angular is having with the powerful things to work with. And now for onwards, Angular 9 and Angular 10 onwards, we are having with the IV engine, which is having the super fast tree shaking option will be there, and the DOM virtual DOM thing will be there, is there in the Angular now. So yeah, which is actually working in a good manner. Like let's suppose which is actually mapping the virtual and your physical DOM. Like let's suppose if the DOM is basically, the virtual DOM concept is like it's actually making the copy of the DOM. Let's suppose if something is changes, like let's suppose we are having the ng on change method, and it will be tracking out and tracing out like if there are some minor changes, so only the changes part will be added and removed from the DOM, not the whole DOM will be added and again or removed again. So yeah, this is actually the more power of Angular. Now we also the Angular community is too much bigger. You guys can take an invite of Angular Discord community, and we are having the Angular articles. Moreover, you guys can find me as well on the dev channel. You guys can see my GitHub. I have a lot of open source contributions as well, and if you guys want to work on open source, so you guys can have a look on my GitHub as well. So you guys can find me on Twitter as well, @AwaisShaikh_. Yeah, and you guys can also find my slides on this bit.ly URL. I will be placing it on the description part as well. So yeah.